guys and then tell you a little bit about what's going on.
Thank you very much, Art. I appreciate the opportunity to come here, and I feel like I'm in an incredible company. So,
He tipped his hat to you.
Yeah, he did.
Excellent. Well, you really do put a high standard when you remind us of Ronald Reagan and the principles and the values that he stood for, as well as the style, the way he took good ideas and translated it into functional policy that people follow. That's the art of politics. Unfortunately, far too often, what's considered the art of politics is simply compromise. You know, you're here, I'm there, we meet in the middle, we're done. No, he knew how to, in a winsome fashion, move everybody to the right direction. And if you recall, I remember when he was first running, I was actually living for a few months out in Santa Barbara, California. My wife, she's from Santa Barbara, and so before we got married, I figured I'd move closer to where she was. Telephone bills were too high for one thing. But that was during the election of 1980. And it was really fascinating to watch it from that perspective because, of course, he claimed Santa Barbara to be a bit of a hometown for him. Not that he was there a lot, but he was at his ranch, which was a few miles away. And, you know, I remember when he was when the election occurred, the very next day, he had some, or not maybe day, maybe it was a week later, there was some meeting in some place, and suddenly the entire world's media converged on it. You know, you could tell that something's up here now. And anyway, as I say, when he took office, do you remember where we were at as a nation? Jimmy Carter, the hostages. Anybody heard of stagflation? Gas lines and sweaters, because of course we can't turn the heat up because we just don't have enough for anything. Just this general sense of malaise, of better times are behind us and worse times are ahead, so hunker down because that's all you've got to look forward to. That was the environment he was in. Where are we today? Yeah, let's talk about Greece and how different is our economic picture than Greece. Well, they're gratefully, the United States economy still has some strengths, but if you want to look at just the ledger of how much we owe and what our gross national product is, it's not too far away from some of these European nations. And what is the price of gas now? Where is it headed? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There is this sense of, you know, quiet despair, if you will. I see some real parallels between then and now. Then there was a leader who stepped up to the plate. And remember this one other thing, too. How long did it take him to get into office? Did everybody just say, yeah, he's our guy? No. 4 years before that, he, of course, actually, let's go back further. When did Ronald Reagan first come onto the political scene nationally? Right. His speeches that he gave in defense of Barry Goldwater, just riveting. Got your attention. You thought, this is the man. But that was 1964, and it was not until 1980 that he was actually elected. So, just to give you a little bit of a historical perspective on you know, how some of these things work. And yet, despite all of the travails we went through to get there, a man with the courage, with the principles, with the leadership skills, was able to not just win the presidency, but to use that bully pulpit and that and that international influence to do so many things, to literally take the Iron Curtain apart, to give a sense of real hope and courage to the people in this nation, and I would suggest around the world in so many ways. After he had spent 2 terms in office, and it was time for him to step aside, I remember in 1988 thinking, we need some more of this. And I submit that George H.W. Bush got elected essentially on the coattails of the reputation of Ronald Reagan. And I won't speak yay or nay on George H.W. I would simply say that Reagan's legacy was so potent that it roared right into the next presidency. Now, I bring that to your attention just to kind of lay the foundation for what I want to say overall. Right now, I've got a question for you. What is the most important thing? And I'd like, from just yell it out. What is the most important issue we have facing us from the federal policy side of things? What's the biggest thing we need to fix? What's the first thing?
Yeah.
Well, getting rid of Obama is most but how come? Government intervention, I think I heard deficit, socialism, growth of government. I'm sorry?
Social justice welfare policies.
Social justice welfare policies, meaning what they're putting in place is going the wrong direction. Yeah, because that's a kind of a phrase that you can twist a couple of directions. But you're right.
Almost half of Americans on a government check.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the issues before us today. I know when I'm talking to the average person who isn't this is a politically savvy group, so you gave me an awful lot to work with. Now we're going to be here till midnight. For the most part, what people say is, it's the spending, it's the deficit, it's the government gone wild. And it's almost a sense of despair of how can we stop it now? Can we stop it now? I'm going to tell you yes. And partially because of the example I look back with Ronald Reagan, where he looked for that, that pony in the pile of manure. You've heard that story about it where if there's a pile of manure, he's looking around for the pony. He's the optimist who knows there's got to be a better way. We need to have that, and I would say, God willing and His blessing coming towards us, we can see that again. I do serve in the Senate. I've been there, this is my 4th year in the Colorado Senate. I represent District 15, which is most of Larimer County. It's all Larimer County except Fort Collins, which is its own Senate seat. And prior to that, I spent 6 years in the House in a district very similar, most of Larimer County except Loveland and Fort Collins at that point, and a little bit of Weld County. I've seen a lot of the process there, and I've learned how seductive a lot of the government systems are that really sucks so many of us in. Unfortunately, too many Republicans get sucked in too many times, and we don't really fix it as much as we just patch it together or go a little bit slower down the wrong road. I've learned the difference between good government and what I heard here, socialism, too much deficit, all of the things we want to fix here that kind of bundle up in that word Obama, and everybody understands very much. As a consequence, I am running for Congress at this point, biting off a very, very big bite because it's the 2nd Congressional District. It's the new 2nd Congressional. And I'm not trying to get into politics too much, but I think it's one of, that's the reality. One thing I've learned down at the Capitol is 95% of all the votes are determined on Election Day. So we will have bills come and we'll